So it's 7:30. We have a few people on, and let me just say welcome to everyone. And again, a huge thank you to our speakers that you will get to know um, very shortly. And I'm hoping that this will be kind of a conversation. A lot of these I sort of ask all the questions, but I'm hoping one thing will lead to another and that our panel will just speak, step in when they have something to add to whatever we're talking about. And those of you that are listening, please put your questions first into the chat. Any questions or comments that you might have. And perhaps at the end, if we have time, we can open it up to verbal questions. But I'd like to start out with questions, comments uh, that come up in the chat, and I will try to keep an eye on it. Um, and I'm Mary Livernoy, who is our executive director who organizes everything, is in Europe, and she usually handles all of the Zooms. And she asked if I wanted her to be on, when of course it's what now, like 1 or 2 in the morning in Germany. And
Mhm.
I said, I think I can handle it. So hopefully nothing will come up because I'm not great with Zooming. So I thought we would start asking our panel to just introduce yourself and tell us very, very briefly about you and all of these people do have a child, at least one, that have been uh, on this very scary, sometimes intimidating, sometimes, but amazing journey. And so I'll ask each of them just to tell us a tiny bit about them and their children, and and how they got started. Not where they are now, but how they got started. So, Anne, you're up there in the corner. Why don't we start with you and
Perfect.
where you're from?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are in Rancho Santa Fe, Southern California, close to San Diego. We have 4 kids, and at one time we had all three of our oldest riding. So we went from age 6 was our youngest, and our oldest daughter was 10. So we had a 10, an 8, and a 6. And we started in the Midwest and moved to Southern California, partially because of horses, trying to find the balance between family life and this crazy dressage pursuit that some of them, especially our youngest, is on. So um,
Anne, were you a rider yourself?
I was a rider as a kid through adulthood, but had never ridden dressage till I hit my 30s. My
Okay.
husband and I were looking for properties to buy, horse property, and there was this woman riding dressage. I had no idea what it was. And,
Okay.
and so literally it was from buying a house to finding it. And once the bug hit me, it stuck. And then
Yeah.
all of my kids have done various different sports with horses.
Okay.
So
And Peter?
It started for me, Sophia, really literally in her car seat. I would drive by a horse farm and she would be reaching towards the windows. And I used to stop on weekends, but I'd take her around when she was young. I mean, she wanted to ride when she was 5. I couldn't find anybody that would take a 5-year-old. I think she got about 7. I found somebody and I would take her on weekends and they would just put her on a pony and kind of hand walk her around on a lead line. And we did that for a bit. And then we just found a great little barn here. We're from Windham, Maine, and it was a great place for her to begin her journey. It was an active barn with a lot of really good adult amateurs. It wasn't a fancy place, but the quality of horse care in the barn was super well
Mhm.
kept, and it was a great foundational place for her to be. And that's where she took her first dressage lesson.
Great. And Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jen Cook. I'm in Fogelsville, PA, which is Eastern Pennsylvania. And I'm mom to Riley. I just have one daughter, and she is obviously a dressage rider. And I actually and my husband both had horses um, before Riley was born, but we kind of um, dabbled in driving and trail riding and things like that. I ended up at a dressage barn after a traumatic brain injury, and Riley started taking lessons there when she was younger. and got to clinic with a dressage trainer in the area and fell in love with it. And so we just kind of worked from there to find opportunities for her to continue to ride dressage and um, kind of navigate this journey.
Super. Who's next? Oh, I have a stink bug infestation. One just landed on my notebook. Sorry. I've probably drowned 20 of them today. Um, sorry, I get distracted by them. Stephanie.
It's hard. That's hard to follow. Okay,
Yeah.
London. So I'm Stephanie. I have a 16-year-old son, Ben, joining this evening from Wellington, Florida. We recently relocated here from Louisiana. Ben started riding Western, then went to Hunter Jumper during COVID. Had the opportunity to watch a dressage lesson and said, can I take a lesson? I want to try this. And we tried it. And we were at our first dressage show, and a TD came up and talked to us and told us about somebody named London Gray and Dressage for Kids. And here we are still. So it's been a great journey.
And last but not least, Chelsea.
Okay. Originally from the Midwest, from Michigan, born and raised. Five children, four of them, all of them learned how to ride at least a little bit until the last one, Miss Sophia, decided she learned that her mother learned on as hunters and then decided she didn't want any more aerial launches. So she went to dressage a little bit as a kid. And then she said, let's change this up a little bit and add some water, some ditches, some energy and some risk and do eventing. So there she is. My 12-year-old is doing eventing and loving every minute of it and actually adores her summers with Miss London in Michigan.
And some of you may have seen she was on the cover of what with her fjord?
The USDF Connects magazine,
Yeah.
The Connections, yes.
Yeah.
With his well-endowed ears, yes, ma'am.
Yes. So now that we've gotten to know you a little bit of how you all get started, can you just briefly tell us, the past year? What are your kids doing now? Why don't we just go through again, starting with Anne? What are your riders doing now?
Yeah, so
Where have they gotten to?
yep. Our daughter, our only one still riding is Eleanor. She will turn 21 this year. She has brought along her own horse, Sir Junior, from a junior horse 6 years ago, competing through her first senior Grand Prix this year on him. And then she's also competing a sales horse that I bought named Duffy, and will hopefully be going to NAYC with him in the young rider division. So she's on that young rider U25 Grand Prix cusp.
Okay, and Peter, what's your daughter doing now?
My daughter Sophia is Sabine Shook-Carey's assistant trainer and general life assistant.
How old is she?
She's going to be 26 in July. So I called her the other night. She's been there for 5 years. I can't even believe it's been that long. But of course, she went with Sabine when she left for the Olympics. She has a young 3-year-old, well, 4 now, horse. So she's learning how to train young horses up to the levels. Sabine is a master horsewoman, and her husband as well. He trains horses for Hollywood movies and stuff like that. So she's doing really well. She's competing. She's got a client horse or two that she's in training with, and just quietly learning. She also gets to work with Christine Traurig quite a bit because that's London's coach, and they were all at the same barn for the first 3 years. So she's got a pretty great training situation going on.
And Jennifer?
So Riley is 20 years old now, and she's working full time at a farm with a Grand Prix rider and trainer locally. She's mostly an assistant trainer and starts all of the young horses that come in. And last year she competed with her D4K donated horse, Ruben, and they were the finals champion, the USDF finals champion for the junior young rider at the pre-St. George level, and she's looking to go out at the I-1 next weekend. So we'll see how that
Wow,
goes. Yeah.
fantastic. And Stephanie?
Ben is 16. He's a sophomore in high school. We recently relocated to Wellington, as I mentioned, in December of this past year. So Ben could balance school and riding. He's currently riding FEI juniors. He trains with Allie Brock, and he's planning to go to NAYC and festival this year. So.
Super. Chelsea?
You. Sophia is 12 and she is finally this last weekend actually was able to go up one level in eventing to beginner novice on her little pony, which is a very exciting time. And she wants to continue to grow in that area. And we'll see how long she stays with the risk or if she goes more intense into dressage.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to keep her in dressage, but I don't want her to stop the eventing. Um, so, um, if your game, our speakers, would you share perhaps without making it too obvious, perhaps a mistake that you think you may have made in your first journey with this sport? Not everybody has to answer. Would someone like to offer? Nobody made any mistakes.
I made so many, I don't know where to start.
Okay, share one, and
I would say in the beginning for me, I would look at other youth athletes getting opportunities and wonder where I was missing these same opportunities for my own kids. And you might go to a website, but maybe I wasn't as familiar how to navigate it, or just not feeling connected and where to find those resources. And that was probably my biggest obstacle as a mom, trying to find how do I get my kids involved and how do they see other kids participating in a sport where in Indiana they might be the only youth rider ever at a horse show.
anyone else have anything?
The only mistake I think when we were the first year we were trying to qualify for NAYC. It's a very difficult grind, and especially up here in the Northeast. I mean, the closest horse show we had was 3 hours away. Some of them were 7 hours away.
Mhm.
And as you get to the process, you watch the scores, and you have a drop score and this and that, and it makes you. I can remember we were like in a panic. All of a sudden, decided to go to a show to try to grab a score, and it just the competition part of things, and that kind of environment kind of sometimes makes you do things maybe you shouldn't have done. Right?
Did she make it to NAYC?
She did the second year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how was it when she didn't make it the first year?
It was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay. I mean, it was by a fraction of a point. Half of us were in um, Vermont, half were in Saugerties. Saugerties was giving out 68s and 70s like candy, and it was devastation in Vermont. And so, it's kind of the way it goes. But it was it helped form us to be more consistent with our plan the following year, and that worked out better.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to share?
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes that I made was trying to compare Riley's journey to the journey of other kids and what they were doing because um it's really easy to fall into that trap of, well, I know this kid and they're doing this, and why is my kid not able to do this? And just kind of trying to realize that all things come in their time, and that we're all kind of on our own path and our own journey, and that it takes the time it takes to get there, and pushing the horses to do more than they can do is never a good idea. That it's better to just kind of sit back, trust the process, and focus on those little wins and the progress that you're making, and not comparing to these big goals that are happening for other kids, when it's maybe just not the right time for your own kid.
Absolutely. And because of course I work with these kids all the time, And that's the thing that I find so difficult. First of all, NAYC is like the Olympics for them. And just like the Olympics, there's three people that get to go once every 4 years. Lovely goal, but um, you might not want to let that be your only goal. But this pressure, and I'd be interested because most of your kids have done NAYC, this pressure that the kids put on themselves that they're not any good. Only by going to NAYC do they prove that they're good. And Stephanie, do you mind mentioning because Ben went
Mm-hmm.
and then Ben took some time off
Mm-hmm.
from that
Mm-hmm.
and now is one of our top qualifiers for this year. Could you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of pressure to show. I think, also sort of I reflect back on our journey. It's hard to get it's hard to get good information. And I see in the chat a couple people said, I'm not sure how to help people, my daughter find opportunities. I'm not sure who to go to. And I think you can become overly dependent on on your trainer or on your coach or on the group of people you're around, and that can also add a lot of pressure to show and to participate. In our case, in Ben's case, he really he went to NAYC, wasn't quite ready. He had a horse that was very difficult, but he felt that sort of pressure, right? And wanted to step up to the plate. He had had some success the year prior in a lower division. But the journey really became about, and I think he had this realization and we had this realization, let's take the pressure off completely. This is a learning opportunity. This is about building life skills. For Ben, he started working with a sports psychologist, which was very, very helpful for him. And he really, we then sort of empowered him to make the decisions about his riding. If he wanted to be competitive, that was really on him, and he learned to seek, I think, the right sort of guidance, right, that resonated with him and helped him develop as a person. So it and he, it was hard for him last year because his friends were all going or sort of moving up a division, but he really decided what was right for him was to stick with this particular horse, and to really learn to ride. He felt like it was and so his riding, he broke the riding was sort of broken down all the way down to the basics again and is slowly coming back up. So it was, but it's hard because you do feel that sort of competitive pressure. And so as a parent, we tried to help Ben surround himself with mentors, and coaches that could provide that sort of guidance and reassurance that this journey takes time. And you don't always have to be in a hurry to perform at the top levels. It really is about helping you develop as a person.
And I think that's really hard for the kids. I mean, for Ben to be mature enough to do that, because amongst them, those of them that are competing at all, it's a tremendous pressure to want to go. Now we have a question about the question. I don't know if you all see the chat. Did your children primarily compete in CDIs to qualify, or which may have been closer, or go to national shows where the scores are probably going to be higher? But of course, if I'm correct, you go to an NIC and AYC qualifier at a national show, your score is going to count. If you go
Yes.
to a CDI, you have a choice of having your score count. Am I saying that correctly? I make a point of not knowing the rules.
That's right.
I think you might be right. I mean, we didn't have a lot of CDIs in New England. In
Right.
fact,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we had any. So yeah, it was all national shows, and it is a lot of pressure for the kids, and it's like a mini Olympics just in the way the whole thing's set up when you're there. It's hard for dressage is a long game, right? You look at the current world champions; they're not 28 years old. They're, it takes a long time, and then you got to have the partner with you, and you have to all come. It's a very, very difficult thing. But for a young person, I can remember Sophia thinking, boy, when she hit 21, if she didn't make it, she was over, and
Yeah.
uh,
Her life was over. Her equestrian life was over. Yeah.
yeah, but clearly not the case. And but I think as a young person, kind of difficult to see because these kids that are doing this are pretty driven and goal orientated. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's hard.
And if we can instill in them a sense of accomplishment and success that doesn't necessarily come from going in the show ring and getting a ribbon,
Yeah,
um, um, or getting a score, that uh, to me, that's what's in many cases missing. It's all about um, the competitions, whether it's NAYC or getting a bronze medal, or going to regionals or whatever it is. Those things are fantastic, but uh, it's not easy to do, both physically, ability wise, and expense wise.
yeah.
And I think more and more having to make that decision expense wise. I mean, just going to right now, what's it? Is this the fourth year in Traverse City, third year? Um,
Yeah,
uh,
C21 was our first year in Traverse City.
yeah,
So yeah, 5 years.
just getting, I mean, for heaven's sakes, coming from California, just getting there is a huge thing. Um, Now, Chelsea, your daughter is doing dressage. I think she enjoys it, but of course she has to do well in the dressage to do well in the eventing. Um, and she, do you think she's riding a non-traditional, not only non-traditional dressage horse, but a non-traditional event horse?
That's
Do you
right.
think she feels? I mean, I think she's very proud of her horse. Does she feel at like, why can't she have a nice event horse like some of the other kids with whom she's competing?
I think she has just really enjoyed the journey. And
Yeah.
of course, with her Fjord Bubba, he struts his stuff and gets lots of attention.
Hmm.
And she loves to be out there. I think she's enjoying the journey and she's competitive, but yet competitive with herself. She's okay if she doesn't win or okay. She does want to progress,
Hmm.
but it's about the learning. And so right now she's getting the opportunity to ride different types of horses. And for her, she's trying to prepare to be a better rider for when she is able to get a more competitive horse at the upper levels. So it's really a journey. I'd say the biggest recommendation I'd have for the parents is make sure that you don't want it more than your kid because the kid has to want this. It has to be their journey, not the parents' journey. And I see sometimes it's not so much fun in any sport for the kids when the parents want it more than the kid.
Yeah. And we see that fairly often, and often those kids burn out
Mm-hmm.
fairly quickly. Um, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on the comments. Um, all of you, I know a little bit of the journeys. Did your kids start out? At what point did they become serious about dressage? What else have they done other than the dressage?
Hmm.
We know Chelsea's daughter's eventing. Peter, I don't even know. What did Sophia do anything other than dressage?
Sophia started dressage. It was her first real lesson.
Hmm.
And local shows, not national shows. We have a little horse park here in Hollis. That was her first show experience.
Hmm.
Um, she didn't always train with Tanya. She started with Amy, her assistant, and Amy was great with the young kids. And there was a group of young girls there at the time, so it was a really good environment for her to learn. And no, she's always just loved dressage. She's jumped once or twice. I've seen her, and she shrieks. So it's just not her thing. She really enjoys the process and the connection of dressage and the conversation. of the whole movement of the horse and
Mm.
all that. The theory of it. She was always very good in the book. You know, when we started,
Yeah.
like you're going to have to really be good in the book knowledge, um, and the fitness and the things that don't cost money. And she took that really seriously. And when we would go to clinic with top clinicians, they always loved having the conversation with her because she actually understood what they were talking about. And you could kind of see them. They would always get up and start walking around with her. If they were sitting all morning when she started riding, they'd get up and start walking around.
Mm.
So it's just what she loves. Yeah.
I love the point that you made, the things, the education that doesn't cost money.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's the piece that a lot of the kids aren't getting. I think everything is about riding and getting ready to show and getting your horse on the bit and doing a correct shoulder in. And are the kids getting the education um, off the horse? Chelsea, are you in Pony Club?
I wish
Yeah.
I would.
Any of
There
your
isn't
kids
any
do
down
Pony
here.
Club?
Yes, so when we all started, all three of my kids were pony clubbers.
Uh-huh. Was it valuable?
Fantastic. And anyone that shows up that wants to ride here, I always tell them buy a pony club manual, even if you're an adult. There's so much value to the educational materials that Pony Club puts out. And I think that builds also into your program and what made it so inviting for our kids to go from Indiana to Socrates to be part of that program was,
Mm.
again, your reinforcement that education and horsemanship are just as valuable as the on-horse training.
Sure. Um, was the riding education in the Pony Club good?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I really do feel like we had great instructors that came in and worked with the kids in Pony Club.
Because
Um,
very often, of course, a lot of Pony Club instructors are volunteer. They're
yeah,
local. Very often, the riding instruction isn't so fantastic. And even if I know the kids aren't going to get maybe the best riding instruction, the off the horse education and the camaraderie of it, I
yes,
think,
yeah,
is just absolutely fantastic.
yeah.
Now, Ben did a little showing of hunters and stuff, right?
And eventing as
And a
well.
little eventing in the beginning.
That's right. That's
Um, who did I miss? Oh, and Jennifer, Riley. Riley just loves to ride and do all kinds of things, right?
Yeah, she started in dressage, and that's kind of her first love. But
Uh-huh.
her favorite thing now is trail riding. She'll do barrel racing, gymkhanas, but like everything we have goes on the trail with her.
Hmm.
And she started a young horse last year, and he's 4, and they go out for hours at a time on the trail. She'll do a little jumping here and there too, but yeah, she started with dressage. That was kind of her thing.
And I have to say, I grew up with the horses in the backyard. We did all the care and so on, and Pony Club was my life growing up. I'm just shocked now at how many kids I have. And for example, in the winter program, and all of these kids ride from very decently to extremely well, that cannot take their horse on a little hack down the road. And I find that very sad, first of all, that they haven't tried to train the horse. They're that lacking in courage that maybe the horse isn't going to be perfect, and that really all of their thoughts are about what they do in the dressage arena. And I think, first of all, well, interestingly enough, I at the World Cup this year, we talked to four of the riders and one of the trainers, uh, Christian Simonson, of course, who did so well, and the winner and the rider from Australia, and Moritz Treffinger, who had been European pony champion. I'd seen him at that point. Um, all of them, and uh, Monica Theodorescu, who's a German coach and she's a several-time Olympian and been German coach for many years. All of them started out doing jumping. Every one of them. It was just such a normal thing in their upbringing, and that was Australia and Europe and the US, so forth. And I hope that our riders don't get so wrapped up in their little dressage
Hmm.
rectangle. Um, I know one of my successes as a rider was the fact that I did so much. I rode bareback and I jumped and I rode Western and we did all kinds of crazy things and really learned about moving with a horse and being part of a horse and how horses think. And I think a lot of that is missing now. One of the comments mentions 4-H. I should have mentioned 4-H because a lot of the 4-H programs also are very, very good in uh, the off the horse education. Um,
London,
yes, please.
one of the things that I've seen recently as I get involved with more of the youth, I it I get a little concerned as well. I don't know what the solution is, right? And that's why we're trying to connect with communities. But you see a lot of these youth riders, the younger ones, that they will never go off site. They won't go off out of their arena,
Mhm.
and they many of them won't ever ride without an instructor either.
Yeah, good point.
Mm.
And so how do you move beyond that to build the trust, to have that bond, etc.? It's
Mm.
not easy.
I think if we start them younger, it's going to help. When you get the 16-year-old that's never been out of the ring, that can be, I think, a little tough.
Hmm.
When they're younger, I mean, the youngest kids have no fear whatsoever. And I see it too. The horse bucks a little bit and they fall
Hmm.
off.
Yeah.
There's no gutsiness of, "Rawr, I'm going to keep myself on this horse,"
Hmm.
because they haven't had to deal with the little difficulties. Um, so and it's easy for me to say sitting in my chair here in my little den um, of how they get these opportunities, but certainly little bits of riding up and down the driveway. I mean, I can't get some of them to ride up and down the driveway, this flat driveway that's enclosed with a fence there in Wellington.
Mm.
Um, it starts in simple little things.
And I think you also see a lot of the little ones when they do start little, they're matched with a very big, powerful horse that's just
Yeah,
too much for them.
yeah,
So that's another thing.
yeah.
There's value in little ponies,
That's for sure.
well-behaved ones, but little ponies.
Although, when saying that, I have to laugh. Ben, Stephanie's son, started when I first saw him riding, and he had this wonderful pony, and he was doing wonderfully. And then I saw him 6 months later, and his legs were hanging down 3 feet, a foot below the pony's barrel. These kids grow too fast, some of them. But um, I was going to ask about finding. Oh, hi, dog.
Sorry, Jack.
Finding trainers.
Mhm.
Now, Peter, you're in Maine. There weren't a whole lot of dressage trainers. Stephanie in Louisiana wasn't exactly overwhelmed by dressage trainers. Um, how did you deal with that? Peter, you were lucky enough to
I
have,
was lucky, we
yeah,
we just happened to we had a situation, and I can't even remember what happened, where she was being led on a pony, and that kind of, I think, was a scheduling issue. And so we spent a few weekends just driving around, banging on, walking into horse barns wherever we could find them. We walked into some trotter barns. We didn't, we went everywhere. And we just happened to walk into this little barn in Gorham, Vienna Farm, and I knew right away. It just felt right. It was
mhm,
really one of the luckiest things, I think, to get her started. And they have a great trail network there at the farm, and a great process for starting young riders. And um, and they started. We started small for the first couple of years, and Sophia was on a mare that was a bit laminitic, and then that didn't last too long. But she was a cute little mare, and we were afraid of Tanya and her giant gray mare. We were terrified. And every spring they would have a show meeting, local or recognized. And she approached me and said that she thought Sophia had talent and wanted to put her on the gray mare. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was a learning process. She was that was another big stepping stone for her. It was a Grand Prix mare, and she was riding it at training level, and so it taught her a lot. But there were some piaffe and passage and training level that everybody thoroughly, But it was a steep curve, and Tanya told me it was going to be a steep curve, but Sophia was more than ready to do it, and we were very fortunate to have that mare, for 3 years. Got her to, I think, third level before we had to retire her. So uh, it really was one of the luckiest finds for us,
Yeah.
Because there weren't many. I mean, I really only a couple in the area, but this was the best fit for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being I'm from Maine, I know. But how lucky you were. Now,
Mhm.
Stephanie, you're in the middle of nowhere in
Yeah, as you
Indiana.
know.
Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about how you dealt with it.
Yeah, well, we Zoom. I mean, it was really FaceTime. We were lucky enough early on to have a dressage trainer who would make the rounds, travel from about 2 hours from her home, and she'd sort of do these mini clinics and lessons, and we did that for a little while, but then really transitioned to a lot of virtual lessons. And we did a lot of D4K. We did a lot, that's how we met you, London. As you know, we would truck over, haul over to Texas because those were the nearest clinics. And we do every team clinic we could. And then started, doing clinics and tried to really just, Ben really loved doing those sorts of clinics and riding with different people. And so that really became part of the journey of experiencing different things. But we'd have to travel. In some cases, we traveled pretty far distances. Went up to Maryland once, and or a couple of times, right? But the team clinics really became the in-person foundation for a long time, and then progressed to doing WIT. I think that was a big turning point. You guys hosted a WIT in Ocala one year. That was a 1 month program, which worked for our work and school schedules. And then and from there, ultimately found kind of the situation that we're in today. He got to a point where the virtual lessons were just not quite cutting it, and needed to be in person to progress to the next level. So fortunate to have found a really good situation now, but we had to be creative. I'm really good with the tripod and an iPhone now from all the virtual lessons. Have the whole setup if you need to sort of know what works really well. But we were creative and sort of viewed it as part of the journey and the learning experience.
And you had a situation where, yes, you had to travel a long distance to a lot of the clinics, but then you started bringing the clinics.
You're right.
You hosted the clinics.
We did.
And
So,
brought
yeah.
by having other people come in. Also, it made it possible to bring in
No,
some
that's right.
good trainers.
That's right. We hosted clinics at our farm, and that was fun and a really great learning experience, and a community building experience as well. So now I'm glad you mentioned that.
Anything else, Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, I live in an area that's very dressage
Mhm.
oriented. There's probably a dozen dressage barns within 30 to 45 minutes of where we live. So it was more about choosing the right trainer for the right point and where Riley was in her journey at that time, and kind of being willing to part ways with a trainer when it was time and do that in a really positive way. So that, we weren't necessarily leaving. We never left anywhere on bad terms. It was always a really positive and good situation to kind of move on to the next step. So we're a little different in that sense, but I will say that clinics were such a huge part of Riley's education. I mean, London, I don't even know how many times she ended up riding with you. And I've lost track of the states that she's ridden in team clinics with you. Because there were quite a few of them. And the summer up in Maine when we did sit, those were all really important. But there were a lot of clinicians that came into the area fairly regularly. So she got to ride with some really good, educated instructors with great eyes to kind of help her along the way too. So I can't relate to the lack of good dressage instruction. I'm sorry. We've got a lot of it around here.
Hmm.
Eh, were any of you in the situation? I find myself sometimes I'll have someone that I work with more than once or twice, and they have a very limited horse, and their ability has really gone beyond. I mean, they could be doing more. And the conversation is, yes, you love your horse dearly, and in my case, as an instructor, I will help you to do everything you can to continue to improve him, but he's never going to be highly competitive. And the situation is, do we move that horse on somewhere else, maybe to bring someone else along, hopefully, and find a horse that's more suitable to your ability? Or do you just love your horse so much and you don't ever want to give him up? Have we had that situation with any of you? I run into it a good deal.
I would say most definitely. Like having four children, three of them in college or just graduated from college, financially, we don't have a budget to go and buy a six-digit horse. We never did, and we will never be that family. And have oftentimes had to take horses like Eleanor's very successful FEI pony was a combined driving pony that we turned from a combined driving mount into her superstar dressage pony. And there's times where, yes, we feel it's a setback. And then you have to come and say, is it your goal to keep progressing in the sport? And if so, what is your ultimate goal? And as a family, how can we help you get there? And that is a difficult conversation to have. And sometimes families just financially, this is a expensive sport to have a very well-trained schoolmaster. So I think for me as a parent and a trainer, having the conversation, it's time for Susie to get a new horse. And how do we make that financially possible? And what do we do with the horse that you're so attached to? And sometimes that can come at very pivotal emotional hormonal states for teenagers, And so you have to, I think it's a very fine balance between feeding into overpaying and putting your family's life in jeopardy long term and getting horses that are suitable to meet the talent of the youth riders.
Now, Jennifer Riley acquired a horse through a pony horse, little horse through D4K
Pony. Yep.
pony, who wasn't very suitable. And tell just how did she get through that struggle? Because it was a
Yeah.
struggle.
It was. And I think for a long time we all sort of thought like maybe Riley just needed to step up her game a little bit. Like Riley maybe wasn't quite getting it. And years of lessons and clinicians. And I think sit was really the turning point for us when you got to work with her every day for a month and kind of saw the challenges she was facing. She's just, a tricky little PRE pony with some systemic health issues that we could never really quite pinpoint, which made the contact really difficult. And Riley was, I mean, I'm biased, but I think she was a pretty talented rider, and Pia just wasn't showcasing that. And we ended up going to look at some FEI ponies to maybe lease to try and do FEI ponies at Festival of Champions. And we went and we tried one. They hit it off. It went really, really well. And I, said to Riley, like, we can, find a new rider for Pia, or, and you can get this pony, or like you stick with Pia. And she decided that she was going to see it through with Pia. And they did end up riding in a qualifier at the FEI pony level and put down their best test ever to like a 58%. It was not amazing. And we just kind of realized that Pia was not going to continue to progress. But, she loved that pony. And
Did
at
she
that
get
point,
discouraged?
yeah, I mean,
Did
there
she
were a
go
lot
through
of
a tough
tears.
time?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we all cried. We all cried a lot.
Mm.
It's heartbreaking when you've got these goals and you think you're almost there and you're almost there and you're almost there and you're just not quite getting there. Um, it was probably we probably waited a little too long, and London, you might agree with that too, that perhaps we should have moved on a bit sooner, but you know we really couldn't afford to have multiple horses at that time. We're lucky we have a small horse property of our own. So that year, Riley competed at regionals. I think she finished last in second level or something like that. It was super impressive. And then we retired Pia and brought her home. Riley bought a young horse at that point to start a young horse because that's what we could afford. He turned out to be a very good adult amateur horse, but not really the level of what Riley needed. And then we were able to get Ruben through D4K. But like that was all part of the process. And we struggle with selling horses. It's just not a thing that we do well. We like to keep our horses. They owe us nothing, and we have a backyard that's big enough for them. So we kept them, and now Pia is teaching me dressage, and she's awesome. So she's still working, and I'm so glad that we kept her and took care of her. But there definitely is a lot of frustration when you're thinking about, is it time to move on from this horse or not? And for us, we stuck it out, and it never really paid off, except now we have a really pretty backyard pony that I get to toot around on.
Hmm.
Exactly. Anyone else have anything? Patty, can you hear me? Cosmicus, Patty, she's grooming her horse.
Ah.
I don't see.
Can you get on a minute? Can you get on a minute or not? Can you unmute? No. Yes? Unmute? No. You're still muted. Can I unmute you? No. I guess not.
Hmm.
No. If you figure it out,
Yeah, I've got
there
it.
you are.
Yeah,
There you are.
sorry.
Do you mind me? Because I just thought um, uh, your daughter has also gone through some difficult times.
Yes. Yep.
Can you just tell us a little tiny bit about how she's dealt with it, or you all have dealt with it?
If we went way back, we had a couple ponies that tried to kill her. And I would say one of the best things we ever did in her journey was to buy the 20-year-old Connemara, like on a plane trip, one trip, found him, realized he was going to be the perfect horse, and it changed everything for her. So one thing I guess I would say is never, when your child is at that early stage and needing confidence, to not buy the old horse, because he was a godsend and he's still with us. He's right over there in that stall and will be with us till the day he dies. But we bought, when Finley was ready to move up from ponies, she had a very good pony that took her through third level and to Lamplight twice. And started looking for a junior horse. She fell in love with a horse that we did like very much. He wasn't her trainers and my first choice, but Finley fell in love with him when he did an extended canter, and that was all that was left after the discussion. But when we got him, he had tremendous difficulty with, I think he was trained through Pre St. George, and they tried to move him up, and he got some, a lot of pressure to move up the levels, and he was done when they sold him. And we bought him thinking she'd do juniors on him that year because she'd already done third level, and ended up, it took 2 years really to develop a relationship with this horse that was rideable in the ring and safe in the ring. And he still will have moments of, yeah, I'm going to shut down and not do this if things aren't going exactly how he feels or if the miscommunication is there. But what she's learned from that is, my communication has to be correct. My communication has to be kind. I have to make this work fun for him. So whereas I was calling Lendon the first year we had him, like, when do I cut bait here? Because this is it's dangerous and it's not great. She always had faith that she could get through to him, and she did, and she adores him, and they're she could do anything with him. This is a horse that trail rides. This is a horse that goes everywhere. This is a horse she can do anything with. And he was not that horse when we got him. So I'm glad we stuck it out because I adore him. He's the fourth horse. We have 4 horses in this barn, 3 that are retired already, and he'll be the 4th that retires here with us because he is quirky. And I would never, although I think, this, she needs to get her next horse. We're in the process of thinking about that. He'll never go anywhere because he has taught her so much, and and it was right. That journey was right. And that journey, having the right trainer through that to help her get there, and knowing that she could, because her trainer got on her horse too. And there were times when he was stuck where he wasn't going to go anywhere. And Finley decided one winter she's just going to stay home with him. It was after the winter we had been in Florida. And I'm going to stay home with him and I'm going to figure this out. And she did. And it was definitely worth it, for sure.
Did she have trouble dealing with the fact that she wasn't going to NAYC or whatever her dream was? Do you think?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can tell you. So that year that she first tried to qualify for NAYC, he took off with her and she got eliminated in a class at Mystic Valley, and then did the same thing at Nita Spring. And I can still vividly remember this. And she came out, and we weren't going to have time for NAYC. She really wanted to qualify for NAYC that year, and we weren't going to have time to try to get another set of scores in. And I can that breakdown at that moment, I can vividly remember that realization that I've been trying for 2 years to get here, and then now this, and then now it's not going to happen. That she did that for a day, but then she was like, well, what do we have to do to get on track for next year? So, that again, I think, was all part of her process. She was disappointed in the moment, but it didn't stick with her. And she's done great things with him. And he's had moments, you've seen it, Lendon, last year. He had a moment where he shut down and we weren't sure if we were going to go to be a demo rider at the NIDA clinic. And she's
Right.
like, nope. And I said to her, I said, what do you want to do? And she says, I can get him there. I know I can. And she did. And I think that's all, that piece of the partnership is why I have her ride, that it's not where we end up necessarily, in the rankings or in the, in the year ends. It's that, she can work herself through something. She's learning something, and she really honors that partnership with this horse.
I have to say I hadn't planned it when I asked you all to speak, but it's interesting. What I'm hearing is the kids that have gone through difficult times, they're the ones that have said, I'm going to stick it out. I want to do it this way. It wasn't the trainer and it wasn't the parent making that major decision. And that's probably why these kids they've all come out on the other side, at least for the moment, with success.
Definitely
So
better for it. Yeah.
yes. I'm just checking my notes here. Before I open it up, in a moment, I'd like to open it up to any conversations that any of our listeners, participants would like to say. Is there anything else that any of you would like to add that might be of use in, for example, when you first started even showing, those of you who weren't showing parents yourself, or when you first started the route to regionals or the route to NAYC, where did you get your information from? How did you find out what to do? Because I know I hear a lot. I don't even, a parent saying, I don't even know where to start. Any advice from any of you on that? Patty, are you raising your hand?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I haven't found out to unmute myself yet, but I mean, you would know that, because you know who she is, Chris Holleran,
Yes.
So I knew through the first D4K clinic. We met Chris and Tessa at the first D4K clinic we ever did. Finley was, 7. That's when you told her to ride like an Olympian, and Chris was a resource for me as I figured out this whole thing. And had I not had her, I don't think I would have known, what kind of pathways to choose or what was the right or wrong thing to do or what I did or did not have to worry about. And to this day, I can still call her up and ask her thing. And so I think the parents that I have met and, and the kids my child has met and she can talk to through the D4K program, I think have been our greatest resource. I mean, we love our trainer, but she also doesn't know, she does a lot of adult amateurs. Finley's her only junior. So that, that kind of path we had to find from somebody else. And most certainly that has come from other parents in your program.
By the way, Chris is on the call.
Oh, hi, Chris.
And all love you.
Thank you so much. And I'm happy to help anybody I can.
Yeah, Chris is a fund of information in many different ways. Now, Peter, how did you figure it all out?
I had a dressage detective. I think you even called her that one time. She could sniff out a clinic from a mile, 100, 500 miles away.
In Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia.
Yeah.
I mean, she was caught. I mean, sometimes I'd be careful. She'd double book us for clinics sometimes by accident. But it all started with she volunteered a lot, which meant she was at shows and she was ring stewarding and she would meet, that's how we met Jane Carroll, right? And all the different barns that were active in our area. She became connected with them, online. She used the USDF website, youth site pretty extensively, but and she was just a barn rat. So, I mean, I think 2 or 3 times we came to ride with you, we showed up not with the horse you thought we were bringing because, the Grand Prix mare was lame. And by being a barn rat and a young girl and doing all her things, the adult amateurs would say, here, take my fancy horse that we couldn't afford, that happened more times than I could count. So, but yeah, I didn't really have to, I just tried to keep up. My experience is really different because of how invested she was, right?
Yeah.
But she did all the hard work, and people wanted to help her, so they helped us a lot.
Who was starting to speak?
Oh, Stephanie. Yeah, I was going to say the adult amateurs were very helpful for us in our area, and in fact, Ben had the opportunity to we had the opportunity to sort of buy a schoolmaster from one who's still a part of our lives. She's still a wonderful sort of source of knowledge and support for Ben. And then another adult amateur came along and said, "Here, ride my pony." So, and they really taught us a lot about showing and about, all of those logistics that I didn't know in the early days. And so they became a very important part of our network and extended family. So that's been very rewarding, very valuable.
Patty mentioned buying what would you say, a 19-year-old pony?
He was 20, yeah, when we bought him.
And Ben went to the National Pony Championships, and how old? He was 20.
Probably 27 at the time. 26, 27 maybe, yeah.
At the national, and I'm pointing that out because of the value of these older horses that you're sort of you may end up having them forever in one way or another, but man, are they valuable. And do you have anything to add about how you first learned about how to do this stuff?
Yeah, I would say understand where your GMO contacts are at. So through USDF, you have your GMOs in your areas. I ended up becoming on the board of directors for our GMO, and there weren't really a lot of youth programs, so was bringing them in, trying to build up a youth program in our area. And then after moving to California, got involved and took over the Region 7 youth coordinator for NAYC. We're here as resources. Every one of us is a volunteer. And I think Lyndon's program, youth coordinators through USDF, we're all here to see these athletes thrive. We're here to help parents. We're here to help the youth. If you find someone that says you're a youth contact in any capacity, usually they're a volunteer excited about helping your kid.
Mhm.
And I think that was my greatest resource, is finding those that had done it before me and like show me the rope, like obviously Chris does a great job too. There are us parents that have kind of been there, done that, and nothing would bring us more joy than to share it with the next generation coming along.
Mhm. And Peter mentioned you mentioned a little bit the value of volunteering, the kids going to the show, of going with someone as a groom to NAYC the year before they're going to be trying out themselves. There's a huge advantage to that, or the regional championships or the pony club champion, whatever. If they're not able to go on the horse, go and volunteer, go and be a groom. Um, and get a sense of it. The ones that do that, I know I hear this especially about NAYC, that just because that can be such an overwhelming experience the first time, because it's so unlike anything they've done. But to go as a groom or part of, with someone else and help out can be a huge advantage. And that's where you meet people. That's where you as parents meet people that are going to become the Chris Holleran for you, um, and the kids get a sense of what's going on. Chelsea, how did you first find out about D4K?
Through one of the clinics put on by the South Florida Dressage Association. Way back, the Sarah Lockman one.
Oh, okay.
And Sarah Lockman is the one who recommended when
Okay.
Sophia was writing her grandmother's Lipizzaner there.
Yeah.
Little tiny kid doing that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been a source. And I think the biggest thing is just be curious and ask. Like everybody else has said, people are willing to help. You've got to ask, because I have yet to see in any one of these disciplines kind of a manual. Here's how you show, here's how you do everything, because it's always changing as well. So you just got to ask and be connected, for sure.
Yeah. There are a lot of people out there more than willing to help.
Mhm.
I wanted to say, no, I guess I'll wait on that. So if there's anyone that would like to verbally ask a question, and we've covered a lot of more higher level stuff, but please unmute yourself and just speak up. We've gone more than a little over an hour. We try to stick to an hour. How do you handle, we do have a question here. How do you handle the kid putting so much pressure on herself? I see that. Any of you had that situation? No?
We have.
Okay, go for it.
We have. Yeah, have a very competitive, driven kid. And as we were actually at one of the horse mastership clinics in Maryland, and there was a speaker who was a sports psychologist who gave a presentation over Zoom. And Ben said, "Mom, I'd like to work with this guy. Can I have a meeting with him?" And I thought, "Oh, sure, so we vetted him
How
and
old
checked.
was he?
I don't know,
15,
London,
14, 14.
maybe 14, probably, huh? 13, 14. I don't know. And probably 13, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, and fast forward a little bit later, and maybe, and this became it was just opened up a whole new world for Ben, and gave him tools that he needed to sort of manage everything from the nerves to the multitasking to preparation. And he came to Andy his dad and I and said, this is the best thing y'all have ever done for me. And we were kind of like, okay, wow. It was one of those moments where you think, okay, if I sort of look at the ROI, right, the cost of this investment was so small compared to everything else. But for Ben, he really thought it was the most valuable. And so it gave him, it's really helped him reframe his whole life, not only the riding, but handle pressure. Now, look, not always perfectly, right? But he sort of has a routine and he has a plan to be able to address some of these barriers that may pop up. So that's been I would highly recommend finding it, someone in your area or virtually that your child and your family can feel comfortable with, because it becomes such an important resource. And again, I keep kind of underscoring those life skills. Really helps build those life skills. Would strongly recommend and happy to share our experience with that.
And he's not a horse person.
He's not, although he's become more of a horse person. So it's
mostly thanks to Ben.
Yeah, mostly, right? People are like, well, what is he doing in there in the tack room? Was he's meditating or doing whatever before the show? But so he now has a lot of horse kids, believe it or not. But he started out as coaching tennis players, high performing tennis athletes, and figure skaters, believe it or not. And there are similarities, with those sports.
My point being, it doesn't have to be a equestrian.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And and I think there's probably a little sense from a lot of kids that I don't need a sport, so I'm not crazy. But I mean, our top athletes are all working with them, and why not start there? Anyone else have any little advice for our person that's asked about kids putting pressure on themselves?
I can speak to it a little bit, but actually on a little bit of a different token. There's the putting so much pressure on themselves, but then there's the other thing about, especially the society that we live in today, the kids developing more grit and thicker skin. Because I've seen some kids say, "Oh, that instructor, all they do is tell me how bad I am and find the faults, and why don't they tell me nice things?" And well, you got to get some grit, kid, right? And so it's that balance of being so hard on yourself, but also understanding it's part of the journey and finding the positive in it and understanding that there is positive intent with the instructors and finding that balance. I think we're lacking that with a lot of the kids. Really being able to manage themselves in life in general.
One of the things, because I don't know if you all know, but I do these clinics for kids most every weekend. And I always tell them that this isn't just a normal little clinic where you come in and ride, but I just want to, I hope you're here because you want to become the best that you can be. I don't care if it's the best training level rider in the country or the best intro A rider in the country, but that you really want to find how you can be the very, very best that you can be, and how hard are you willing to work. And I think the shock that some of them have when they first work with me is no one's really challenged them before. Because as you say, it's a lot of, oh, that's good. Let's do another circle. And now let's circle to the right. Or whatever. I mean, I'm not being very nice here, but there is, as you're saying, Chelsea, there's, what is that real hard work? What is that? I'm giving it everything I can. I'm coming in with a plan. I'm going to fix that right hand of mine that doesn't do what it's supposed to do, rather than being told the same thing over and over and over again. And I think there's, we've talked about the ones, you all that are here have kids that have done well. The ones that have these dreams and have no discipline.
Right.
And this is such a disciplined sport. And that's a tough thing. That's a whole nother subject. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Anyone want to have anything? I know we have some good parents here that they'd like to add before we sign off.
Just like to thank you for all the help over the years, Lyndon. Great influence on Sophia and complete horsemanship, and super appreciate it.
Well, we're real proud of what she's doing out there with. It's fun to see, I'm becoming the great grandmother here now to see the kids that have started and the route that they're on now that they're getting old. What'd you say? She's 20?
Gonna be 26 in July.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being here. I don't see any other questions. I don't hear anybody yelling. Thank you all very much for your attention. And oh, somebody did just put a question in, and it's a whole long subject. Finding the right horse to purchase or lease.
Okay.
Go with the right person.
Ooh.
And good luck. Nowadays, it's getting harder and harder and harder. So yes, I don't think there's a short answer to that.
There's no short answer to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
hard.
would say
It's
get your
hard.
trainer involved. Make sure your trainer is involved when you're looking at purchasing and leasing. And if they charge a fee for that service, pay it, because there's nothing worse than, coming home with the wrong horse that you've got to then work through. So
Mhm.
take your time
And
and take your
talking
trainer.
about trainers, I have a quick thing. There's some trainers are kind of looking for the horse. Yes, it's for your child, but they're going to be training it. And there's a little sense of, well, you leave it with me for 6 months.
Yeah.
I'll ride it and train it.
Mhm.
Hopefully, you're finding a horse that's suitable for your child now. Um, so what is this one?
No, I just said get your vet and farrier involved.
Yeah.
I think that's another important
And
piece.
and Chris is saying, and ask, one of the best pieces of advice is ask if you think there is an opportunity. Ask. What's the worst that can happen? They
That
say
was
no.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you just know, I mean, I'm telling the kid, you never know where those opportunities are going to come from.
Yeah,
So
and I would underscore, I mean, I think in this developmental phase, right, you don't have to go out and purchase the right super expensive horse. So to Chris's point as well, I think there's a lot of community. There can be a lot of community support and in the adult amateur community and perhaps others where there are these horses that are available that people may not have time to ride, or somebody's going off to college, or so I think if you can find these sort of care lease situations or partnership situations, it can be a really good bridge while your child is going up the levels. And there's a lot to be learned from that. And a lot of, just a lot of benefit, a lot of strengthening of relationships and of the riding community through that process. So yeah, I think ask.
Yep.
I think for Eleanor, the biggest piece for us in finding her horses throughout the years, all three of our kids actually, is for each time they get to ride a horse, even if it wasn't their own horse, they would tell me or put it down in a notebook. Eleanor, especially, of our three, she's always been the most invested. She would take a note. I like this about this horse, Mom. Like the trot felt good, or the contact was easy, or there were very specific things that she liked or didn't like. And when we would go to look at horses to buy, that really helped us kind of narrow it down, because sometimes you would show up with a younger child and they'd just like dream eyes open up, like, oh, there's my Barbie dream horse. And then they're not objective when they're trying them when you're going to buy. And that was something even today we still go back and look at and we compare. How does that one compare in the contact to this horse that you didn't like riding as well? Or, whatever those traits might be that help support her in her talents, like the ones that seem to fit her better than others.
I would say also too, I learned the hard way. Go one time, ride it in the indoor, and then go back a few days later and ride it in the outdoor. And that can tell you a lot.
Yeah.
And if the owner gets on first, then you want to come back and let your kid get on first.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you all very much. And just one last thing from me, because I know kids don't read much. Getting information out, as you know, from Dressage for Kids, from the USEF, from USDF, whatever, getting the kids to read. But there's so much information out there. And are you just being curious and finding those opportunities? I mean, this new American dressage mentoring program that Robert Dover started. Do you know about all of the activities that USDF does? Do you know about all of the activities that Dressage for Kids does? Um, um, you know, search a little bit, read, and because there is a lot of information out there, um, but you have to look for it a little bit. So thank you all very, very much. Those
Thank
of you speaking and those of you listening.
Thanks. Good
And
night.
best of luck to everybody. I hope it's a great season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.